Imagine you are in a race, driving motor cars in a race, and you go forward impulsively. You make a flash decision to make it all the way to the ambulance. Well, this is where the shining of the glory can come into focus, of where you need to really consider what you do before you wreck another person's car. This quick thinking and this acting out of impulse is really an encapsulation of what Mercury in Aries is all about if you have this placement in the birth chart. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about the placement of Mercury in Aries in depth, in detail, and in a very deep kind of way, breaking down all of the major aspects of what this placement is all about. Mercury in the very first sign of the zodiac. This is the very first episode of a series I'm going to be doing on Mercury through all 12 signs. So delving into Mercury and Aries. Aries is an energy. Mercury is first of all how we communicate. How we process information also is representative of Mercury, our intellect. And so Aries is very impulsive. It does things without thinking about them. It jumps off the cliff without realizing that you're going to end up in a gulch. But with this placement, you tend to say things before you think about what you're going to say before you say it. So that's one of the major lessons of how you can mature in your life is really thinking about what you do before you do it to make every action calculated on purpose, well thought out, and for your highest good. Not speaking before you think, not saying something that you're going to regret, not speaking very destructively. Having a control, having the volume knob on that radio of what you express and really dialing it back to something filtered, something civil, something socially acceptable, something that is for your highest good and for the highest good of all. If all the other reasonings that I have given really makes you angry and frustrated to hear, what is in for your highest good? Is it for your highest good to just destructively say whatever, put your foot in your mouth and say whatever you have it on your mind to say, which may be negative, critical, um, very bad and unkind things to say? Or are you going to be doing something that is in alignment with your highest good? And connecting with your higher self is one way to do that. Now, people with Mercury in Aries are very passionate when it comes to their thoughts and their expression. They really express their ideas with a lot of passion. They have a lot of passion when it comes to sharing what is going on in their mind. They also are very blunt. They're very direct. They say things how it is. They speak the truth of things. They're not afraid. They don't shy away from the truth. They get right to the root core of it, and they do not mince their words. They communicate in a strong manner, in a direct manner, where they're speaking very directly to something. They get to the point. It's very concentrated. Mercury in Aries is a very concentrated placement. And there's a deliberation to your actions, which we're going to talk about with Mercury in Taurus. But with Mercury in Aries coming before Taurus, we don't beat around the bush. We're very direct. We're very straightforward. We get to the point. So others can appreciate this from the people who have this placement. Others can appreciate how straightforward you can be, how honest you can be. You're not afraid to say how it is, and that is really, really refreshing for a lot of people. You may be very, very pioneering when it comes to your thoughts, pioneering when it comes to your ideas, coming up with new and innovative ideas and inventive ways of thinking about things. You're more focused on the solution rather than the problems, finding solutions to things, finding new and interesting and fresh ways of going about problems. Your communication style is very animated. It can be very animated, very excitable, um, very boisterous. And so you encourage people to adopt to your point of view. You're good at persuading others to go along with you. You're good at inspiring others to be on your side. And for that matter, you're also very, very good at inspiring others and believing in them on their path to greatness. It's the highlight of this. But you have the Aryan confidence to get other people on your ship, on your boat, to be in support of you and to go along with what the plans that you have mapped out to for them to be manifested. And so this placement can be allowed. It depends on other positions in your chart. If it's retrograde and Mercury in Aries is retrograde, I could have been born with Mercury in Aries retrograde, by the way. Um, but if it's retrograde, it might tone down the fire a little bit. But generally, this placement is very loud and it wants to be the center of attention. It wants to get the attention. Now, this placement can also be highly argumentative, highly combative, just taking one thing and then blowing up out of proportion and fighting, um, just wanting to argue, wanting to have conflict. But don't do it for conflict's sake. You just find issues that you discover in your life and you argue against them. But you have to keep in mind that the Mercury and Aries person, especially, or the Aries person, or any strong Aries energy, if there's somebody with very strong Aries energy in their chart, they don't say things just for other people to just ignore them and it goes in one ear out the other. They say things and they speak to the problems and what's negative that's going on because they want change, because they want the issue resolved, because they want things to get better, because they want to feel satisfied and content in their own lives. So when Aries people express their ideas with confidence, it is very important for the people to listen to them and to adhere, um, and to respect what they have to say and do what they can to make the Aries dominant person very happy. So that is something that is very, very important to bring up here. So if your Mercury is in Aries, you learn as you go through life how to be courageous, how to speak truth, how to be brave when it comes to communication. There may be difficult intellectual obstacles which could present themselves, but Mercury in Aries is all about the intellectual challenge. It's all about wanting to take on a challenge and achieve that. And with Mercury, we're talking about it being very intellectual. So achieving that challenge that is intellectually based. And so you can be open, extroverted, friendly, and strong-willed. You may have an intense intellectual ability. Your mind is very quick to think. Someone says something, then you have an immediate reaction. You have an immediate thing for, you to say to that person. One thing that's very common with Mercury in Aries is cutting people off in conversations because you have this idea that you're so passionate about and you're not patient to wait till the other person finishes their piece. And so you just jump in and interrupt them. But part of the lessons of Mercury in Aries is learning to really listen to what the other person's saying and respond rather than react. And so, um, this is all about um, really thinking quickly and doing all those kind of things. People with displacement also are very independent when it comes to their thinking. They have a lot of energy and they don't always channel it constructively or productively. That's your challenge, is to take your anger, frustration, and use it in a productive way as a force for change, as a force for good, for your highest good and the highest good of everybody else. So the big thing here is focusing on solutions rather than the issues, as I've talked about before. And people with Mercury and Aries want to intellectually speak and learn the things that they authentically want to learn. They don't like being tied down to what other people are expecting them to learn, expecting them to study. They don't like to be forced and other people to impose on them. There might be some issues here with the school system. Possibly homeschooling would be the best solution for Mercury and Aries, because that can allow them to authentically um, explore and learn the topics that they authentically want to learn, instead of going to school and having to read this book that they don't want to read, having to read in that text, having to learn that certain subject that they're not into. Whereas homeschooling, there's more freedom where they can learn the subjects that maybe they're not enthusiastic about, but in a fun and interesting kind of way, in addition to the things that they authentically want to learn. So that's the benefit of homeschooling. And so there can be this lack of self-control here, this lack of putting things under wraps, of just saying things and just having your what is considered to be mouth diarrhea, where you're speaking and you just can't stop expressing yourself. You can't, click the off button on what you are speaking about. And so you need to think about what you're going to say before you say it, and have a limit. Everything in moderation. Be disciplined about it. Cut yourself off when you feel in your heart like you have said enough. Mercury in Aries can be very pioneering and very competitive. This is also great energy for engineering. Your mind is very decisive and very observant. Mercury in Aries is not one to sit like Mercury in Libra, which weighs out all the pros and cons of an issue, looks at all the different perspectives. Mercury in Aries just acts without thinking about it, acts without considering other people's opinions, acts very decisive. Okay, this is what I want, and I'm going to do it right now. And so that can be very beneficial, that can also be very detrimental, depends upon the situation. So there is a talent for writing and speaking. You can effectively communicate and influence others. That's very important. Now at the low road, you can go on the side of being very sarcastic, which can hurt others. You're very assertive in your communication. That's definitely something. You're not afraid to stand up for yourself and for the people that you value and care about and love and like. So um, your words are very passionate and very energetic. You may come off as too blunt or impatient. That may be a possibility here. You want to communicate your ideas in a way that captures attention. Your intellect is very sharp. Um, your reasoning is very active and very dynamic. And so you want to learn about the topics that you are genuinely interested in learning through direct experience, through experiencing that subject for yourself. You can retain information very well. There's this thrill of discovery here. There's this thrill of discovering new things and accomplishing new tasks. You may jump from one topic to the next, spreading yourself out very, very thin. If you explore one topic, then the fire dies out and you get bored, explore another topic. So it's very difficult for you to commit to one thing for a certain amount of time, because you like to start things. But you're not the best at finishing things. That's the sort of a caveat of Aries energy. where they're so enthusiastic about something, they go in full force, head first, into something, and then they get bored with it very quickly, and then they move on to something else. And then they're just hopping and not savoring and not really getting any meaning from the things that they learn about because they jump around so much. So you may express your thoughts with confidence. You want to manifest your ideas and thoughts, take your thoughts and make them action steps to make them physical actions that you are embodying. You can think on your feet. Your ideas can be very innovative, inventive, and original. Um, you can, as I said before, believe and root in others. It's very, very important with this placement to have patience, to learn the value of waiting, to learn the value of delayed gratification. Things don't happen in the snap of your fingers, things don't happen overnight. So one of the challenges with this placement is learning to wait it out. So fire energy, which Aries is a fire sign, interestingly, it's the Earth fire sign because Earth is very much about practicality making things happen, and Aries can definitely make things happen. So that's why Aries is the Earth fire sign. Probably 10% Earth, the rest being fire, but it is the Earth fire sign. Leo would be then the sign that comes after Aries, the fire sign that comes after Aries would be the water fire sign. But anyway, with this energy, with fire energy, it's very inspirational, very creative, very dynamic. Um, Now if you have Mercury in Aries, you want to look to the your Mars placement, the house that your Mars is in, and the aspects that planets are making to that Mars, because that can tell you how you assert yourself, how you go after what you want and need in your life more specifically. So you take the initiative. That's something very, very huge with this placement. You're quick to process things and react. You speak very quickly. You have a very, very sharp and fast tongue. It's very important for you to organize your thoughts because they can be all over and impulsive. You're very enthusiastic. You love to take action. You may act before thinking because of that enthusiasm, because of that excitement. You may act before thinking things through. You're easily irritated. You become verbally aggressive if you feel threatened by anyone. Your communication is simple and effective. It's very, very important. You're very direct, very blunt. You're honest. You tell it like it is. You're very assertive and straightforward in your communication. You may also run into conflicts with authority figures, governors, principals, teachers, parents. You may run into challenges and conflicts with them if you want to go your own way and they're trying to mold you into the person that they want you to be and conditioning you into these certain things. And there are good aspects of conditioning and there are negative aspects, but Mercury in Aries is here to intellectually break free from the conditioning and the impositions made by others onto them. You don't like studying for the sake of studying. It's also very important. People with displacement may be very hard to tame, very hard to control in childhood because of their excitement, their enthusiasm, their impulsiveness. So it's very important for them to learn constructive ways of handling their anger and frustration. They need to take a deep dive into a topic that they're interested in and dive deep and take the plunge and really learn and invest in that thing instead of hopping around, instead of getting a surface level understanding of that thing. You may rebel against anything that you don't want. That's very common. You're very decisive. Another thing with Mercury in Aries is you're not so far into the details, into the negatives, into the issues. You're more focused on the positive view, the big picture. The same goes for Mercury in Sagittarius. And you don't get caught up in the minutia and the trivialities of life. It's something very, very remarkable about this placement. And it's also very admirable. So I hope that you enjoyed this video on Mercury and Aries. I will be back in a couple days to give you your video on Mercury and the zodiac sign of Taurus coming up very soon. That video or your weekly astrology horoscope for the week of August 10th. One or the other video, I have to say, it all depends on just the situations that happen. So tune in for my next video to come out in a couple of days, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now.